Welcome to Whisper's Secrets. She said they were just friends. Then she gave them my bedroom. She told me they were just friends. That's what she said while handing his kids my son's old toys. That's what she said when I came home early and found them sitting at the kitchen table, my kitchen table, eating spaghetti off my mother's plates. I stood in the doorway frozen. She didn't even flinch. "Oh," she said, brushing hair from her eyes. "You're home early." Yeah. I was. And she had no idea that I'd already seen everything. Let me rewind. My name's Darren. 42. Architect. Dad. Married to Marcy for 15 years. At least, I thought I was. We had a house in a good neighborhood. A 12-year-old son, Eli. A golden retriever named Bear. PTA meetings and Friday night family movies. Life was good. Until one afternoon, I noticed Marcy started locking her phone. Started taking longer showers. Started laughing at text messages with her back turned to me. Call it intuition. Call it paranoia. But something in my gut said, she's not here anymore. So I started paying attention. Small things at first. A second toothbrush in her gym bag. New perfume I hadn't bought her. Receipts for dinners I never ate. And one night, while she was out with friends, I did something I'd never done in our entire marriage. I looked at her iPad. She'd left it on the couch, still logged into her messages. What I saw made my stomach twist. His name was Greg. The thread went back 6 months. Messages. Photos. Videos. Conversations about when we'll finally tell him, and I hate sleeping next to him, and Eli's smart, he'll understand eventually. Understand what? That his mom had a second family waiting in the wings? I took screenshots. Every word. Every date. Every image. Then I placed the iPad back exactly where I found it. I didn't confront her that night. Or the next. Because if she was planning something, I needed to be ready first. The next weekend, she said Greg and his boys were coming over. Just for dinner. Greg's helping me plan a fundraiser. She claimed. You're always busy on weekends. It's harmless. I wanted to scream. But I didn't. I said, sure. And started recording everything. When they arrived, I smiled. Shook hands. Even gave the boys snacks. All while watching Marcy from the corner of my eye. She looked giddy. Not nervous. Not ashamed. Giddy. Like a woman in a new romance. Greg was smug, the kind of guy who tries to look helpful but speaks like he owns every room he walks into. He even called me man. Like we were buddies. And when Marcy laughed at one of his jokes, too loudly, too deliberately, I knew what this was. She was testing the waters. Seeing how much she could get away with. The answer? Not much more. That night, Eli came into my room. Dad, he said, why is that guy always here now? I hesitated. He's just your mom's friend. Eli frowned. He sat in your chair. At dinner. I looked down. He's not staying. I said. Trust me. But I wasn't so sure anymore. The next morning, Marcy told me Greg and the boys would be over again. This time, just to help move some boxes. She said it like it was a favor. Like they belong. When I came home early from work and found them already unpacked in the guest room, Greg's sons laughing in Eli's playroom, I realized this wasn't a trial run. She was moving them in. And when I asked her directly, she didn't deny it. They need somewhere safe, she said, arms folded. You have a husband and a child. She shrugged. You work late. You're never around. Greg actually listens to me. The betrayal hit like a punch to the ribs. But I stayed calm. You're making a mistake, I said. Her eyes narrowed. No, she replied. I'm starting over. That night I made a choice. I wouldn't fight her in the living room. I'd fight her in court. But first I needed one more thing. Proof of what this was doing to our son. That moment came faster than I expected. 2 days later, I heard them talking in the hallway, Marcy and Greg, whispering. Greg's youngest was screaming over a toy. Eli was in his room. Silent. I walked down the hall and pushed the door open gently. He was sitting on the floor, holding his stuffed bear. The same one he'd slept with since he was 3. Hey buddy, I said. Want to talk? He looked up at me, eyes glossy. Why does Mom like them more than us? I swallowed hard. She doesn't. She's just confused. He nodded slowly. Then whispered something I'll never forget. You won't leave too, right? My heart shattered. I hugged him tight and said, never. And in that moment I knew. She could keep her lies. But she wasn't keeping him. She filed first. But I was 10 moves ahead. The next morning, I started with a notebook. Black leather-bound. Lined pages. Clean. By noon, I had already filled 5 of them with dates, names, times, and details. Every arrival. Every overnight visit. Every moment she let another man discipline my son inside the house I still paid for. I wasn't just journaling. I was documenting. Because the moment Marcy brought another man into our home like he was head of the table, I stopped playing husband and started playing chess. My first real move? A lawyer. I met with her 2 towns over. No mutual friends. No rumors. She reviewed my timeline, my screenshots, the iPad evidence. She looked up and said, "This isn't just a divorce. It's custody. Full." That was all I needed to hear. We drafted a strategy. Quiet. Clean. Precise. I froze joint accounts. Opened a new one in my name. Created a paper trail showing I'd been the one paying the mortgage, utilities, and Eli's school fees. Meanwhile, at home, Marcy acted like nothing was wrong. She made pancakes on Sunday morning like we were still playing house. Greg's sons ran through the hall like it was theirs. And when Greg started leaving his shoes by the door, that was it. I called a locksmith the next day. Had the locks changed, legally, since the house was still in my name. Marcy was furious. "What are you doing?" "Protecting my property," I said. Greg stood behind her, smug again. "You're being childish." "No," I said. "I'm being thorough." She didn't get it. Not yet. But the tension was rising. Eli started having nightmares. One night I heard him scream. Ran into his room. He was curled in a ball, clutching his stuffed bear, whispering, "I don't want to live with him." "Who?" I asked. "Greg," he choked out. "He yells when Mom's not home." I held him until he fell asleep. Then I called my lawyer the next day and relayed everything. She told me to install cameras. I did. 1 in the hallway. 1 in the kitchen. 1 near the front door. Nothing hidden. All legal. All mine. And what I captured? Greg yelling. Slamming doors. Once even grabbing one of his boys by the arm and dragging him out of the living room while Eli watched, frozen. The audio was grainy. But the fear? Clear as day. That clip went into the folder labeled Primary Custody, Exhibit C. Meanwhile, I began protecting our finances. I pulled my credit report. Found out Marcy had taken out a personal loan under her name, $15,000. Claimed it was for family renovations. It wasn't. Receipts showed it went toward vacations, spa days, and a new set of golf clubs for Greg. I didn't confront her. I copied it. Highlighted it. Added it to the evidence binder. Let her think she was winning. That's when she slipped. She filed first. Left the papers on the counter like some kind of victory flag. "I'm tired of living like this," she said. "I want a clean slate." I read the petition. She wanted primary custody of Eli. Wanted the house. Spousal support. She even claimed I was emotionally distant and rarely present. I set the papers down and smiled. "Great," I said. "Let's do this." Because she didn't know that every accusation she made, I had already disproved. And the clock was now ticking, for her. She said I was distant. My son told the truth. 2 days after Marcy served me, I counterfiled. My lawyer attached a 52-page document. Photos. Screenshots. Financial records. Video evidence. Witness statements. And in bold at the top of page 1. Request for full custody based on unsafe domestic conditions. The court date was set within 2 weeks. Marcy was still walking around the house like she'd already won. Just so you know, she said one morning, the judge will always lean toward the mother. I smiled calmly. I'm counting on the judge to lean toward the truth. At the hearing, Marcy wore her usual pearl earrings and a practiced smile. Greg sat in the back, arms crossed, face twitching every time someone said, custody. When the judge asked from my side, my lawyer stood up and handed over a thick folder. This is evidence of misconduct and unstable cohabitation. The respondent has brought a non-relative male and his children into a shared home without consent. There are documented behavioral concerns, including verbal aggression and emotional trauma to the child. The judge flipped through the pages. Her eyes stopped on the hallway camera still, Greg standing over Eli, finger pointed, yelling. What is this? She asked. Time-stamped footage from the petitioner's home security system. Marcy leaned into her attorney, whispering frantically. Too late. The judge requested a full evaluation by Child Services and a neutral third-party custody evaluator. Within a week, a social worker visited our house. Eli was calm, polite, honest. He showed her the camera locations, his bedroom, the playroom, and the small journal I'd helped him keep, at his request, where he wrote about what it felt like when Mom stopped noticing me. The evaluator nodded, asked a few questions, then said something I didn't expect. Would Eli feel comfortable talking to the judge directly? Eli looked at me. I knelt beside him. You don't have to if you don't want to. He hesitated, then nodded. I want to tell her what I saw. That day, in a private room, Eli sat down across from the judge and told her everything. About Greg yelling. About the nights he cried with his headphones on so no one could hear. About how he missed when his mom used to make pancakes and tell jokes instead of looking at her phone. And finally, my dad listens. He plays chess with me. He makes me feel safe. I want to live with him. That sealed it. The report came in 2 days later. Eli's recommendation? Full custody to Darren. Marcy lost it. She tried calling me that night. I let it go to voicemail. This is ridiculous. He's a child. He doesn't understand what's best. But she was wrong. He did. And the court agreed. The next day, her lawyer called mine. They wanted to reopen negotiations. I told him, we're not negotiating. We're finishing. The judge asked one question. And Marcy had no answer. Marcy sat in the courtroom, hands folded tightly in her lap, eyes darting between her attorney and the judge. She had filed a last-minute motion for joint custody, citing emotional distress, confusion, and a desire to repair the family dynamic. The judge listened, waited, then asked a single question. Why did you choose to cohabitate with a man who verbally intimidated your son? Marcy opened her mouth, closed it, glanced back at Greg, who wasn't even looking at her. She tried to recover. I didn't know. He never acted that way toward me. The judge raised an eyebrow. But you left your son alone with him, repeatedly. Against the advice of your husband. And against the child's own verbalized wishes. Silence. Then the gavel came down. Primary physical and legal custody, awarded to Darren. Visitation for Marcy, supervised, biweekly, pending evaluation. Greg? Barred from contact with Eli. When we walked out of the courtroom, Marcy didn't follow me. Didn't say a word. She just stared at the floor, face pale, breathing shallow. Greg was waiting outside. And when she told him what happened, he exploded. You didn't tell me they were recording. You didn't tell me you screamed at him. He punched a wall, right in the hallway outside the court. Security separated them. And that was the last time I ever saw him near her. Within 48 hours, she'd filed for a restraining order. Apparently, Greg wasn't just losing custody access, he was unraveling. Meanwhile, I got to work finalizing everything else. I transferred the mortgage solely into my name. Marcy signed the quitclaim deed under court order. I kept the house, the car, the retirement accounts, and the peace. My lawyer called it one of the most comprehensive and cleanest settlements she'd seen in 20 years. But for me, it wasn't about the house or the bank accounts. It was about Eli. He came home the next weekend to a clean room, his favorite dinner, and a brand new chessboard. We played for 2 hours. Laughed the entire time. At bedtime, he looked at me and said, "I don't have to pretend anymore, do I?" "No," I said. "Not ever again." A week later, Marcy asked to speak privately. We met at a coffee shop near the park. She looked tired. No makeup. Hands shaking slightly as she stirred her tea. "I didn't think it would end this way," she said. I didn't respond. "I was unhappy," she added. "You were always busy. Always distant. You could have told me." I tried. "You cheated." She flinched. "I know." There was a long pause. Then she whispered, "Does Eli hate me?" I looked her in the eye. "He doesn't hate you. But he doesn't trust you." She nodded slowly. Tears welled up, but she wiped them away before they fell. "You were always the better parent," she said. I lost sight of who I was." "I didn't," I said. "That's why I protected him." She nodded again. And then I stood up. "Goodbye, Marcy." She didn't try to stop me. Didn't ask for another chance. She just watched me walk away. And for the first time, she understood what it meant to lose everything. That night I got a message. Blocked number. "You think this is over? You're wrong." It was from Greg. He threatened me. I let the law handle the rest. The message came at 11:42 p.m. "You think this is over? You're wrong." I sat up in bed, staring at the glow of the phone screen in the dark. My first instinct was to ignore it. But I didn't. I forwarded it to my attorney, then to the local police department with the report number we'd already opened during the custody trial. Within 20 minutes, I received confirmation. The message violated the temporary restraining order already filed against Greg. A warrant was requested that same night. I checked on Eli, fast asleep, arms wrapped around his stuffed bear, the new chess set still set up on the floor beside his bed. I locked the windows, set the alarm, and sat in the living room in silence. The calm before a storm I wasn't afraid of. The next morning, police found Greg sitting in his car outside Marcy's apartment. Engine off. Glove box open. Inside were 3 things: a crowbar, a bottle of whiskey, and an envelope full of photos of Eli. He never made it to our house. He never even made it out of the car. He was arrested on the spot. When the police questioned him, he said he just wanted to talk. That he felt cornered. That he wasn't going to hurt anyone. But the evidence, the photos, the weapon, the prior message, told a different story. He was charged with criminal intimidation, stalking, and violation of a protection order. He never posted bail. Marcy called me in tears. He was outside my place. They said he had a weapon. I thought I knew him. You didn't, I said flatly. You only knew who he pretended to be. She didn't argue. Didn't ask for comfort. She just cried. And then hung up. It was over. Finally. I met with my lawyer the next day. We filed for a permanent protective order, not just for me, but for Eli. It was approved in less than 72 hours. Greg would never come near either of us again. I sat across from my attorney as she reviewed the final settlement packet. You've got everything locked up, she said. Home, custody, finances, protection. Legally, he's a ghost. I want it that way, I said. For good. She smiled. You earned it. That afternoon, I picked Eli up from school. He was beaming. Guess what? What? I got picked for the chess tournament. I smiled so wide I thought my face would split. That's amazing, buddy. I'm so proud of you. He climbed into the car, and as we pulled away, he looked out the window and said, I'm glad it's just us again. Me too, kid. Me too. Later that week, we celebrated with ice cream, his favorite pizza, and a movie night with all the lights off and a mountain of pillows. At one point he turned to me mid-chew and said, Can we stay like this forever? And I said, That's the plan. Marcy still gets her supervised visits. She shows up, quiet and awkward. Eli doesn't hug her, but he talks to her. She's trying. I give her that. But the damage? It's hers to heal. Not mine to fix. As for Greg? He accepted a plea deal. 3 years probation. No contact. Mandatory counseling. I don't care where he is. Because he doesn't matter anymore. He's not part of our story. Not really. The real story? Is about a father who refused to back down. A son who spoke the truth. And a home that stayed intact, not because of walls or signatures, but because of love that couldn't be broken. Every morning now, Eli eats breakfast at the same kitchen table where everything once started falling apart. Only now? He laughs again. He makes jokes. He plays chess and draws dinosaurs and tells me stories about school like they're top-secret missions. And I listen. Because I'm there. Fully. Always. Not because I had to be. But because I chose to be. Thank you for being with us on Whisper's Secrets. If you enjoyed this, leave a like, drop a comment, and be sure to subscribe. The secrets are waiting to be revealed. See you soon.